Today we're doing 7.6 notes known as the quadratic formula. Okay, so first thing that we need to do is talk about standard form again. So way back in the day 7.1, first day of the notes, the formula you were given for a quadratic had y equals like ax squared plus bx plus c. We're going to think of that, instead of having that x squared, as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So basically, in all of our equations that we have, we want it to equal 0. Okay, so first, anything that's on the right side needs to be a 0, and that needs to go over here. Okay, so we want to end with that 12 being a 0 here. So to move it, I'm going to put it at the end because it has no variable with it, so it goes at the end, is your c. And when you move it over, it becomes the opposite sign. So in this case, it would become a negative 12. Okay, so we would have x squared minus 5x, but then that would move to be negative 12. And since we moved it over, now we have it equals 0. Okay, and in b, same thing, but now I've got two terms to move over. So I'm going to keep that negative 9x squared. But if I move these both over here, I would be a negative 5x and a positive 2, and that would equal 0. Okay, so now we have the quadratic formula. So normally when you're given a problem that looks like this here, we would do x factor, okay? So in this particular problem, it actually works x factor, but I want to show you how you would use it if x factor didn't work, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to label our a, b, and c. So a is that invisible 1, b is negative 2, and c is negative 8. Okay. Now, I'm going to plug it into the formula. Okay, so let's just set it up. So negative b, I see that b is a negative 2. So I have a negative from the formula, a negative from the problem, and then I have plus or minus the square root. So b squared would be negative 2 squared minus 4. And we have discussed many times that we're going to put parentheses around this part here and around this part here. So we would say negative 4 times 1 times negative 8. And then that is all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. So I'm going to have to simplify each part here. So I know that the double negative makes a positive 2. I also can quickly do 2 times 1 is 2 down here. So that's pretty simple. Now, I want to show you. When you do negative 2 squared, okay, I want you to be able to see this. If you do negative 2 to the second power, or squared, you get negative 4. That's wrong. You have to have the negative 2 in parentheses like that to get the right answer, because you're really saying negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. Okay, so negative 2 squared is a positive 4. Now, for this part, we are saying negative 4 times 1 times negative 8. That is a positive 32. So I'm going to put plus 32. Okay, now I'm going to simplify this radical. So 4 plus 32 would be 36. Now, this is where, when I see this being a perfect square, I know I could have factored this problem. So if that becomes a perfect square, this problem is a factorable problem, x factor. But I want to show you how this is actually going to work out. So what you would say is that the square root of 36 we know is 6. So we have our 2 plus or minus our new 6 and then our 2. And this right here is basically what this simplified radical solution is. And we're going to get whole numbers here. So my first answer, I'm going to branch it off. My first answer would be 2 plus 6 divided by 2. And my second answer would be 2 minus 6 divided by 2. Okay, well 2 plus 6 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. And 2 minus 6 is negative 4, divided by 2 is negative 2. So my x could be 4 and negative 2. You could put the and symbol there, a comma, that's fine, just not parentheses. Okay, so what happens though when this right here is not a perfect square like that? That's why I have this example. So at the top, hopefully you noticed here that the equation is not in standard form. So we're going to go ahead and put that, sorry, my highlighter broke. We're going to put this on the other side to make equal 0. So my new standard form, this comes over here to be a positive 2 equals 0. Okay, so you have A, B, and C. So negative B is negative 11. So the minus from here, or the negative from here, the negative 11 from there. Then we have B again, so negative 11 squared minus 4. Remember, we're doing parentheses. So A is negative 3 parentheses, and then again, C is 2 parentheses. And then in the denominator, we have 2 times A, which is 2 times negative 3. All right, so now it's a matter of simplifying all the parts here. So a double negative makes a positive 11. And 2 times negative 3 makes negative 6. Okay, we discussed that negative 11 squared is really negative 11 times negative 11. That is a positive 121. Now, we're going to do negative 4 times negative 3 times 2. 24. So we have 11 plus or minus. This can add to be the square root of 145 over negative 6. Now, we have discussed how to simplify radicals. Okay, so I don't have a ton of space, so I'm going to use Post-it note real quick. So if I take 145 and I break it down as a factor tree, I know that 145 ends in 5. So I can divide by 5. Oops. And get 5 times 29. But the problem is that 29, it can't break down. It would just be 1 and 29, so we're still at 29. So this problem, it cannot simplify, which is kind of nice. We don't have to do any extra work. Okay, so my simplified radical here would be x equals 11 plus or minus the square root of 145 over negative 6. But I want you to understand that this right here becomes two problems. It becomes 11 plus the square root of 145 divided by negative 6, and it's 11 minus the square root of 145 divided by negative 6. All right, so when it asks for decimal form, how do we do that? Let me show you. So the 11 plus the square root of 145. We get this answer. We divide that by negative 6. So this gives us negative 22.076. It does say in the directions to round to the nearest hundredth, so that 6 would make that go up to 8. Okay, so down here we could go ahead and write down the first solution. And then we can do the second one. Okay, so then this one, we would do 11 minus the square root of 145, get that answer, and then divide it by negative 6, and we get that long decimal. So 0.1735. 0.173. Okay, so that 3 would make the 7th day. Okay, so those are our 2 decimal answers. Now, I am going to split this video up into 2 videos. So that is the first half, and then the other 2 problems that solve just a little bit differently will be on the back. Okay?